Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. On Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Welcome to Inspired Conversations. I'm Linda Joy, publisher of Aspire Magazine, the premier inspirational magazine for women, celebrating 10 years this year. I'm also the 6-time best-selling publisher behind the boutique publishing company, InspiredLivingPublishing.com, which is dedicated to giving visionary female entrepreneurs, coaches, and health practitioners a voice and a high-profile media and publishing platform to share their wisdom, enhance their expert status, and bring their brand out of the shadows as a best-selling author. All of my brands, including this show, are dedicated to inspiring women to live their best lives. So welcome. I am so excited and honored that you've joined me and today's special guest. You know, we can all use a little more peace and joy in our lives. I'm sure you would agree. And so many of us, especially women, have forgotten what it feels like to be centered and grounded in their truth and in their lives. We're so busy fulfilling the roles that we play and taking care of others that for many of us, and I'm raising my hand here, we've forgotten how to take care of ourselves. I've been there, and it's not a fun place to be. So joining me for today's Inspired Conversation is self-nurturing expert Kelley Grimes, and we'll be talking about self-nurturing and why it's the antidote to the overwhelm and exhaustion that so many of us feel in our lives. Kelley is a counselor, best-selling author, sought-after speaker, and self-nurturing expert. She's the founder of Cultivating Peace and Joy.com, in nurturing peace in the world from the inside out, which she's so passionate about. She is about empowering overwhelmed and exhausted individuals to live with more peace, joy, and meaning through the practice of self-nurturing. She also teaches self-nurturing strategies to women overcoming domestic violence, homelessness, and other major life challenges at local nonprofits, and provides professional and leadership development to organizations that really are committed to making the world a better place. She's married to an artist, has 2 empowered daughters, and loves singing with a small women's group. And you can tell she lives her life by nourishing her soul. Welcome, Kelley.
Thank you so much, Linda. It's just a joy to be here.
Well, I'm excited because this is such an important topic, and you and I have had many personal conversations, and I've shared your wisdom in my books and with my Aspire magazine audience because I think it touches home for me because it's something I've always struggled with. Was that your story too? How did you become a self-nurturing expert? I feel like so many women on my show, it was their own healing and journey that led them to the work they do in the world. Is that your truth?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I come from the same culture that all women come from here in the U.S. and I think probably internationally as well, where we're really we grow up with this belief that caring for others first before ourselves is the ultimate in being a really nurturing and loving person on this planet. And that was certainly the case for me. I have 2 daughters. One of my daughters had chronic health challenges her whole life, and I ended up playing lots of roles as, caregiver and advocate for her, and my whole focus for many years was trying to help find a solution to her suffering. She had epilepsy. It grew into chronic daily migraines, and so I felt a lot of my life was around crisis management, attending to her needs, then attending to my other daughter's needs, my husband, my business. All of these things really stretched me very thin to a place where I was giving more than I was filling back up. And I even, at one point felt very hopeless and I would even say depressed because my reserve tank was on empty. And so I had this kind of aha moment where I realized that I had to choose joy. I actually had to choose things that really filled me up and lit me up and brought me the kind of encouragement and nurturing and enthusiasm that I wanted to share in the world. And so I had already been a very passionate researcher about anything I could do for my daughter, so I just shifted it over to what would be good for me and what would the practices be and what would that look like, not just to do something one time and go off to a retreat or a convention or something like that, which can be lovely, but something that's an everyday practice so that I never get to a place where I am giving more than I have put back in. If we think about a tank, of gas, at some point you run out of gas if you don't refill. And so I look at self-nurturing as these daily beautiful practices to fill back up so that I can make the difference I want to make on this planet.
And it's such an important piece that you just shared that if you're empty, sooner or later it's going to affect everything in your life because you have nothing left to give. And I found myself there, so I can really relate. You know what I think I want to do is I want to define what the term self-nurturing means for those who are listening to today's conversation who are like, what does that mean, Kel?
Well, and I appreciate that because I think a lot of times in our culture we talk more about it as self-care. And what I've done is really look at it in a bigger scope. So I define self-nurturing as the act of caring for ourselves by deeply nourishing, cherishing, and encouraging our own growth and potential. It's really about the relationship we have with ourselves in a very holistic and systemic sense. So it's about, how do I nourish? Nourishing can be how we care for our bodies, what we put in our bodies, how we exercise, those kind of things. But nourishing can be spending time, with meaningful and, inspiring friends. It can be listening to TED Talks that give you a new perspective. It could be listening to this beautiful radio show that gives you another perspective on the world, and maybe you feel today, I'm not alone. I am not the only one that, has not been prioritizing caring for myself and feels this kind of overwhelmed and exhausted and stressed out life, and hope that something can be different. And then that cherishing piece is super important. I know that you shared that I work with women overcoming domestic violence. Setting boundaries and really valuing ourselves is something that I find most women are challenged with, whether they've had abuse or not. But if you've had any trauma, this usually is even bigger for those women. And so really cherishing ourselves and looking like, what does that mean? I often encourage people to think about a child or an animal or someone they just adore and cherish, and think about, can you imagine having that feeling and sensation for your own self? Feeling that just deep love and appreciation and celebration of yourself. And the way that looks like is, how do we spend our time? What boundaries do we set? How do we teach people to treat us? How do we treat ourselves with our own self-talk and self-compassion and just overall kindness that we can show to ourselves? And then the encouraging our own growth and potential. I love that piece because it's so expansive. It's so much about how do I keep growing into all that I can be and really live through my purpose. So when we look at it in that more overall systemic way, I think it really gives us handholds where to start. How do I start caring for myself? Well, how do I nourish myself? How do I cherish myself? What am I doing right now to encourage my growth and potential? And it's been a really wonderful framework then for me to work with clients about and write about and all the different ways that I try to spread the encouraging message of self-nurturing.
Well, it's one that's so important because we are, right now, everything is so fast-paced. It's go, 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 go that we have forgotten how to be. And I've spoke about that a lot through my publications and all that. Women have become disconnected from themselves. So that's why I think and believe so strongly that the work you're doing in the world is exactly what is needed. It's almost like it gives women permission to stop and really ask themselves, where are they putting their energy? Where are they allowing their life force energy and their health to be drained?
And it really is about intention. What is your intention for how you want to live versus being on this kind of hamster wheel of responsibilities and stress and never feeling enough? I mean, I find that ends up being a common theme that I empower women around is like, we don't feel like we're good enough, so we keep going, giving. And the fact is that we're enough just sitting here. We're enough just, being. And the more that we can connect with that and have practices like meditation and mindfulness and things that take us back to that kind of sacred place within our own selves of just being, the more we realize that it's a choice. And choice is the power. I am so passionate about really always looking at choice. You asked me about, my own healing journey, and I'll tell you, every step in the path has been about a recognition of choice. As soon as I realized I had choice, whether it was to choose joy, understand, life is an adventure, understand that I had a myriad of ways to perceive a situation, whether it was difficult or not, as soon as I connected to choice, that was the key to nurture myself. Then I knew in each moment, right now I have a choice. I can take 5 minutes to go sit outside and feel the sun on my skin and connect with the birds and look at the clouds and just be really present in this moment for 5 minutes and come back to do what I'm doing. I can give myself permission to do those things because I understand I have choice.
And from our conversations and from the work that I do in the world, choice is a major key word and key intention in my life. It's how I changed my life from, former welfare mom and runaway to what women know now. It was I had to learn how to shift my energy. And to me, knowing that I have a choice, right, to me it's so much more expansive and empowering than staying in the other energy that I spent most of my life in. So I love that you're tuned into that and show women that they do have a choice. And there's something else you said a few moments ago, that self-nurturing in the way that you teach it and support women is about creating an everyday practice. And I wrote that down as you said it because I think that's key to really transforming everything, is making it a part of our daily existence. And what you just said, going outside for 5 minutes, that's a self-nourishing practice that only took you 5 minutes.
Exactly.
So part of what you are teaching and living, because let's start there, of how you're living it. So that time you did that research and said, okay, I am drained here, I am empty, and you dove into your own healing. How did you start? How did you know what baby steps to take first?
I think I just took inspired action. I mean, at that point, I was feeling so hopeless and so much grief and sadness about my daughter and her situation. And I realized, oh my gosh, that's what I'm modeling for her. Like, here she is suffering, and here I have gotten into this deep hole. And so I just started taking inspired action and taking more walks, going outside. I created a list of things that brought me joy, and they had to be kind of 10 out of 10 things. It couldn't be like, oh, yeah, that's nice. It had to be like, yes, wow, I feel good when I do that. And then I just committed to doing one a day. I don't think that, biting off more than we can chew serves us when we're feeling overwhelmed. It has to be a gentle, supportive, manageable, accessible process. So it was just like, okay, take a walk once a day. Maybe it would be go down to the beach, because I'm very fortunate to live a few miles from the beach. Go sit and watch the waves come in. And if you have enough energy, then maybe walk on the beach. But it was all really small things, but just kind of, taking the action. And, of course, the beauty of it is, Linda, is that as soon as I did, I started feeling better. I felt more hopeful. I felt more engaged in my life again. I felt better. And so it was a beautiful cycle to encourage me to continue.
That's beautiful. When we come back from our commercial break, Kelley, I want to talk about what stops most people from prioritizing and taking care of themselves. And we'll be back in a moment with Kelley Grimes of cultivatingpeaceandjoy.com.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Inspiration for a Woman's Soul. Aspire Magazine, inspiring and supporting women on the path of self-discovery. Claim your free digital subscription today, which includes access to thousands of dollars of personal development bonus gifts from Team Inspiration partners. Claim your Aspire Magazine subscription today at subscribetoaspire.com.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Hey, America, we need to have a little talk. We've got more food than we know what to do with in this country, yet 17 million kids in America are struggling with hunger. Makes no sense. Luckily, the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks has volunteers gathering excess food and getting it to hungry kids. They're kind of like food angels. Hey, become a food angel yourself by supporting Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org. We can't do it without your help. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Welcome back to Inspired Conversations. This is Linda Joy, and right before the break, my special guest, Kelley Grimes, was talking about the importance of self-nourishing and shared some of those simple ways that we can start incorporating it into an everyday practice in our own lives. So, Kelley, what do you feel stops most people, women especially, from prioritizing taking care of themselves? Because intellectually we know we need to do it, but there's a disconnect there because we don't actually do it.
Absolutely, and I love that you said that, because I think the message that I have for the world is not one that people don't know deep in their souls or, in their hearts. They know. Like most of us know we need to put our own oxygen mask on first. But there are blocks to actually taking the steps to do that. And part of it is what I spoke about a little bit ago, which was we don't feel good enough. So this deep kind of part of us that we have to do a lot in the world to give ourselves value instead of just recognizing the value that we have just being. So we have to do a lot. So we get into these relationships where we're caring for a lot of people, and then we have a sense of purpose. Okay, yeah, hey, I feel a little bit better about myself, and giving to lots of organizations or whatever, people volunteering, people, caring for other family members. We have a lot of women now that are caring for their kids, and they're also caring for their parents. And we get into a place, I think, where we almost limit our own options because now we've overcommitted to a lot of things in life because it does kind of fuel us. So we get something out of it because we feel like, oh, we're a purposeful person, but it isn't sustainable. And then we feel guilt and shame about it. I can't tell you how many women have said to me, what's wrong with me? I look around and it seems like everyone else can do this. Why can't I? Or I hear over and over from women, I just feel stuck. I know that I want to do something different, but I'm just so in the grind of doing everything I have to do, in that mindset of have to rather than choose to. I just have to do that I don't even, I can't even imagine where I would find the time to do that. And so that's a big piece of the work I do with people. It's overcoming the obstacles. It's looking at what's there. It's digging deeper to see, is it connected to self-worth issues? Is it connected to, your belief about expectations of women in your family or in your culture. What is it really about? Because we have to transform that mindset and those beliefs to give women the permission to take the first step. I kind of was in crisis mode, like, I've got to do something different because this is not working, and took that step. And what I love about self-nurturing is it's really a path to self-awareness. So I think we make the most empowered decisions for ourselves, the most nurturing decisions, when we're aware of things. So what I also encourage people to do is notice. Notice when you're in that cycle. Take a step back and look at, wow, I have a week that's totally full. I've left not a moment for myself. Notice what that's about for you. Because the more we notice while we're doing it, gives us an opportunity to make a different choice. And it gives us a lot of information about why we're doing things. And the more we can understand what motivates us, the more that we can transform it and guide ourselves towards another belief. So if I believe I'm not good enough, so I have to give to have value, if I shift that thinking and say, and I did this work myself. I totally did this transformative talking to myself, and I was like, I can be the most supportive, loving partner, spouse, and counselor in the world when I'm really nurturing myself. And I just changed the whole framework. So now nurturing myself is the path to being of most service in the world. And I actually deeply believe that. When we're filled up, when you're coming from a deep energy source within yourself, you can be super generous. Not when we're overwhelmed and exhausted, because we just can't. And so I find sometimes we idealize the martyr mom who just gives everything. The fact is, if we really look closely, and we've all been that mom at one time or another probably, we notice we're kind of impatient, and we feel a little resentful. And we're a little irritable. We're not that kind of nurturing, loving mom that we aspire to be. We can't be when we've given everything to everyone else. So I just see it as it's a revolutionary act to nurture ourselves, and then we model that for other people. We give other people permission, and all of a sudden we're focused more on what's going well in the world versus complaining about all that's not going well, because that's our mindset. We're filled up. We don't have to get stuck on the small stuff that causes more stress. We have more perspective. We can have some space. I always talk about kind of space around me where, things don't bombard me. I get to respond instead of react. And so I see the positive ripple effects, happen in one woman's life, in her family's life, in the community's life. It's really, I think, a way of really cultivating peace and joy in the world. And that's why I say, from the inside out, we got to do this inside work to take it out into the world.
Well, there's something you just said that just as you were speaking, I was like, wow. And you captured it in your final thoughts when you said, creates a ripple from ourselves to our family to the world. And that is what I was feeling like, wow, when women will release the guilt and start nourishing themselves and nurturing themselves, it also, have you found this, Kelley, because this was my truth, is as I began taking better care of myself on every level, spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, what happened is it also shifted the behavior I would accept from others. Because now they were like, I was owning my value and my truth, so how others treated me began to shift too. Do you notice that with a lot of your clients?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. What I notice is there's this beautiful self-fulfilling cycle. I take a step to do something to nurture myself. I value myself more. Because I value myself more, I commit to caring for myself more. So that kind of cycle continues. And the more I value myself, the less I tolerate being disrespected or being treated poorly by other people. And so I start to make choices about people I spend time with. So those people that are encouraging and positive and uplifting, I'm going to commit to spending more time with and probably attract less people, who want to complain with me, or whatever.
It's a vibration.
Yeah, and the way that we know how to connect with each other, this is such an important piece to me. We have a deep need to connect. And I love the work of Brene Brown. She's a fellow social worker, and I just so respect what she's brought to the table around shame and vulnerability and, how we really have these authentic, deep connections with each other. That's what we yearn for. But most of us, when we're feeling exhausted and overwhelmed, we only know how to do that by complaining. So I want to be connected to you, so I start complaining about my day, and you add on your complaints, and all of a sudden we're both feeling super negative, but that wasn't what our initial connection was for. We wanted to, have this heartfelt bond. And so when we're feeling better, we don't feed that. I mean, all the time. My daughter and I just had an experience in a store. It was a little bit hot in the store, and they didn't have enough staff, and people were all standing in line to pay for something. And these women behind us complained and complained and complained to a point where my daughter felt sick because she felt so sad for them, but she felt so sad for the people in the store working. Like they were doing the best they could. Everybody was doing the best they could, and the only thing that complaining did, unfortunately, was now everybody was feeling more and more bad. And we had a beautiful conversation after that we can do that to ourselves. We can get into our own negativity in our minds about something and feed feeling more negative, just like we can do with friends. Or we can shift it and try to see something positive from it. What lesson did we learn in that? Or, this gave me an opportunity for 5 minutes to stand in line and really connect with my breath and be, have a little, minor little meditation for a minute while I'm standing in line, or cultivate more patience, or whatever it is. Like, we have a choice all the time with where we focus our attention. And so I think that when we come from this place of valuing ourselves, then we don't tolerate situations that don't lift us up. We just, we say, gosh, that's maybe not for me, or I'm not going to spend quite as much time doing that. Or, when someone starts complaining, I'm going to say, hey, tell me what was the best part of, your day yesterday. Just shift it. We all have the power to do that for one another.
And I love that. It's like we bring our energy to a situation. So you felt it in that line, waiting in line with your daughter. You could feel that the other people were bringing their negative energy to it and feeding it. But the choice was always theirs of what type of energy they bring to a situation. They chose negative. You and your daughter chose positive. And the reason I share that is that was the biggest lesson I learned in my own journey is, wow, I always have the power to choose how I show up. Well, the choice and the question I've always asked myself is, will I show up in love, which is positivity, high vibration, or will I show up with my fear-based self, which is the old scripts that so many of us carry of let's get into the negativity, the gossip, and all that. And as I kept practicing and asking myself that question over the years, today I'm able to stay in a higher vibration for much longer periods of time than I was 20, 25 years ago, because I can immediately sense if I'm being affected by others' energy that might pull me out of what friends of ours call the vortex. So do you see that too with your clients, that the more they do this inner work, they can really catch the moment when they are coming out of the vortex of positivity and love?
Yeah, and you know what I find too is, listen, when any of us are stressed and overwhelmed, we go into a fear-based scarcity mindset. I mean, that's the truth for any of us. Hey, I teach self-nurturing because I need self-nurturing.
Exactly.
So I do this work not because, I'm an expert and I'm going to tell you how to do it. No. I'm learning all the time to do it because that is, as you say, how I want to show up in the world. But I know when any of us are drained, it is so much easier to fall into a feeling of fear and scarcity and whatever. And that's what most of that kind of more negative complaining behavior is about. We just, we want to be acknowledged. We're having a hard time. And so I think that we can, respond to ourselves with some compassion and kindness and love and just know, right now I'm having a hard time. I'm going to acknowledge myself, and in acknowledging myself, that's a nurturing act. And then I'm going to be able to shift over. Being a counselor for over 20 years, I've never wanted people to shove their feelings down. No. It's not like I don't want people to acknowledge and just, we're all just joyful and happy all the time. No, not at all. Life is complex, and it's filled with a myriad of different emotions that we go through. But part of it is acknowledging, this is how I feel. And when I'm more drained, I know I'm more irritable. I mean, one of the things I talk to my clients about is recognizing what their red flag is. And a red flag is something where they know it is an indicator that they need to be nurturing themselves more. And for me, it's when I'm impatient. Now, I am normally a very patient person, but when I'm impatient, it's just my sign like, wow, you need to go do some more things to take care of yourself, because that's not how, you really want to show up with people in the world. It causes disconnection, and my whole, passion in life is to be connected to people. And so when I notice that, I can take a break and go do something like that 5 minutes outside, or some, the arrival technique, a breathing intention technique that I use, or I can go for a walk, or I can call a friend and ask her how she is, or I can do whatever to kind of shift out of that, fill myself up so I can kind of come back to what I'm doing with more of an inner peace and a sense of joy. But I really think we do need to be gentle to ourselves, because I think sometimes we can, I hear my clients beat themselves up too about, well, I know I wanted to be positive, but I really couldn't. I was feeling this. And okay, what is that information telling you? What can you learn from that? So that we stop beating ourselves up and instead use the situations for growth. Okay, yeah, I'm having a grumpy day. All right, what do I need right now?
Yeah, it's learning to recognize your own triggers and responding to them. And I want to talk about that more when we come back from our commercial break. And I also want to talk about asking you to share a self-nurturing strategy that our listeners can implement, today. So we'll be back in a moment with my special guest, Kelley Grimes of CultivatingPeaceandJoy.com.
Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
We can all use a little more peace and joy in our lives. Don't you agree? Counselor, best-selling author, and self-nurturing expert Kelley Grimes of CultivatingPeaceandJoy.com is passionate about empowering overwhelmed and exhausted women to live with more peace, joy, and meaning through the practice of self-nurturing. Through her experience working with individuals, speaking, providing workshops, and teaching professional and leadership development to forward-thinking organizations, Kelley knows that nurturing peace in the world begins from the inside out. That's why she created the free Cultivating Peace and Joy mobile app that brings you beautiful self-nurturing reminders, guided meditations, empowering practice tools, and daily prompts with an inspiring question to guide your daily self-nurturing practice. Download your free Cultivating Peace and Joy mobile app today at cultivatingpeaceandjoy.com.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hi everyone, this is Shay Parker, the host of Best of the Best, which airs live right here on IOM Radio every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. I'm super excited to bring you expert guest hosts, spiritual discussions, free psychic readings, and so much more. I can promise that you will not want to miss this one-of-a-kind, fun, yet touching, down-to-earth show. Join us every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific on OTR-FM. This is Shay Parker, and I can't wait to see you there.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hi, this is Linda Joy, and you're listening to Inspired Conversations. And we're talking about a topic that resonates and connects with so many women, especially the women in my inner circle, because we talk about this all the time. And it's about self-nurturing, loving yourself enough to make yourself a priority in your life. So, Kelley, right before the break, you happened to mention a strategy that you used. And I'd like to go a little deeper into that, because I'd love for everyone that's here with us today to have a resource or a tool that is simple to use and one that they can tap into and have with them at all times.
Well, probably my favorite tool that I teach anytime I can, because it hits three really important parts of developing self-awareness and having space to make choices, is called the arrival technique. And the arrival technique is a technique, a breathing technique, and kind of a short guided technique to help you become totally present in the moment. So I'm going to walk people through it. If you were in a safe place where you weren't driving or something else, and you could close your eyes, you would kind of close your eyes at this time, really feel your feet on the ground, sitting in a chair, and feel your feet on the ground, and just notice. The whole thing with mindfulness is paying attention on purpose in the spirit of curiosity and non-judgment. So this is like, how am I showing up right now? Like, what's going on? So you start by just noticing how it feels to have your feet on the ground, and how it feels to be sitting in a chair, noticing if your back's up against the chair, if there's space, noticing how it feels to breathe in and out, and even noticing where you're resting your palms, your hands. You're just kind of taking an inventory, like, how am I showing up right here? Once you bring yourself present in that way, then breathe in and out 3 times, really deeply, so you feel how it feels to have your lungs expand and contract. And then you do just a brief body scan. And just notice any areas that you might feel tension or discomfort. You might notice if there's any areas you don't have any sensation. And again, you're not trying to change anything, but you're just trying to check in. What's happening in your body right now? And then you exhale the awareness of that and kind of come back to your breath in and out. And then tune into your thoughts. And what I like to do is label thoughts. When I label thoughts, I don't run after them, but I'm acknowledging them. So I might see, I'm having a planning thought, or I'm having a worried thought, or I'm having an angry thought, or I'm having a joyful thought. Like whatever is going on, I just notice it. There that is. And maybe at some time, if I'm really starting to be anxious, I might have lots of planning thoughts, because that's how I manage my anxiety, is I do lots of planning. So it just gives me information, like, there I am with all that planning. Okay, And then I come back to my breath. I exhale my awareness of that, and again, come back to the breath. The breath is your accessible tool all the time to nurture yourself. You just come back and breathe in and out a few times. And what I like to do is kind of as I'm breathing in, say, I'm breathing into this moment. And as I exhale, I have arrived. And do that a couple of times. What I love about this technique is it hits 3 important things. It connects you with your breath. And your breath, again, most of the time people feel, because I do this at big conventions I'm talking at. I do this in, workshops I run. I do this with my individual clients. I do this with couples before we even start a session. I just do it all the time with people. And almost consistently people say, they're so much more relaxed just because they connected with their breath. Then there's the important part of acknowledging what's happening in your body. So much of us are disconnected from our bodies, but our bodies have a lot of really important information for us. So it gives you a chance to check in. What's showing up today? Oh, wow, I have tension in my neck. I didn't know I was holding that. I was talking to a woman the other day at a workshop, and she said, I realized that I clench my jaw all the time. No wonder why I feel so tense. Like I'm always like tensed up waiting, for the next thing to happen. So she's doing some things to consciously release her jaw. And then our thoughts, oh my goodness. We have tapes running in the background all the time we're not even aware of. And so the thought piece is really huge. And the more we learn to label our thoughts, the more we can acknowledge them and, again, not chase after them and feel like, our mind is constantly spinning. And then coming back to our breath. Always in between each of those things, coming back to our breath, because that's our anchor. That's our anchor to the present moment. It's our anchor to ourselves. It's our best tool. So I really like that technique, and I think that it's really easy. I have a free self-nurturing app. I have a meditation recording on there to guide you through it. I have lots of things written up about it on my website. People can record their own, but just some way of knowing that for 2 minutes you could do that technique, and it could change your whole day. I'll invite people to do it before maybe they're going to speak someplace, or maybe before they're going to have a difficult conversation so they can be really present, or after they felt really upset by something. Whenever it would serve you, it's just a really beautiful self-nurturing tool that I think can be used. You can do it in your car before you go into your house, anytime. I have mothers do it before they pick up their kids at school. Just really allows us to kind of show up for ourselves first, and then so that we can be present with others.
Kelley, as you were guiding us through it, I could feel myself dropping into my body. And what I immediately came to mind, because I'm a visual thinker, was as if I was disconnecting from out there and replugging back and reconnecting to my essence, right? Because so often I feel like because of this world that's so fast-paced, we're always focused outward, that we've lost the ability to be still. And that's what I immediately felt I felt like I was dropping into my body and reconnecting with me, like disconnected from everything else out there. Has anyone else described it that way?
No, but I mean, the energy of it they have, but I love the way you said that. That's beautiful, Linda.
Yeah, because we're so often plugged into the outside energy of everyone else's needs that it's almost like we need to pull that plug for a little while, and that's what it felt like to me as I was dropping into my body. So I wanted to share that because I could feel it in that moment happening. So imagine if that becomes a practice every day in my life, what it would feel like. And when we come back, I want to talk about the difference that, taking these practices into your daily life can make in our lives. And we'll be back in a moment with Kelley Grimes of Cultivating Peace and Joy.com, and we'll be talking more about self-nurturing and taking time to disconnect from the outside world and reconnect with yourself.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Do you love, accept, and respect the woman you see in the mirror? You are a goddess. But do you treat yourself as one in every area of your life? Are you taking care of you? Or are you last on your to-do list, if you're on it at all? It's time to take off the Superwoman cape and awaken your inner goddess. Psychologist and body love expert Mary Pritchard is passionately dedicated to empowering today's women to heal their relationships with food, their body, and themselves, along with reconnecting with their inner goddess, stepping through perceived fears, and embracing the truth of who they are. Visit drmarypritchard.com to learn more about Dr. Mary's Body Love Group program, private coaching, sacred goddess circles, and to schedule a complimentary chat. drmarypritchard.com.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
This is Terry Van Horn, and I want to invite you to join me for my weekly radio show, Hailing Light, on OMTimes Radio, every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Hailing Light, we want to bring love, light, and blessings into your world. You can find out more about us at www.healinglightonline.com. Blessings.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back to Inspired Conversations. I'm Linda Joy, and in our final few minutes with my special guest, Kelley Grimes of Cultivating Peace and Joy.com, I had asked her right before break, Kelley, share some of the differences that a lot of your clients and others and yourself, what are some of the ripple effects when we start incorporating self-nurturing into our lives?
Well, that's actually why I love to do this work with people, because it's so amazing to see what a difference it makes. So after kind of going back to my original story, after I learned to create the self-nurturing practices, I thought, I'm going to start running some workshops and just see if this resonates with other women. So I had this group, and they came, and I did it over kind of a 4-week time frame, and that group of women, I want to say maybe there was 10 to start with. Those women, one woman applied for a job that she'd always wanted to do, but that had kind of held her back. She had held herself back, that she thought, oh my gosh, this would be so nurturing to go out and do this. Another woman started creating practices in her day that helped her decrease anxiety and depression, and she felt so much more empowered and confident in her life. Another woman, just very simply, she was a mother of very small children, she started going to the bathroom when she needed to by herself with the door closed.
That is a big one. That's a big one for moms.
Yes, and she just felt like, oh my gosh, just that throughout the day allowed her to reconnect with herself enough that she could be present in the way she wanted to be as a mom. She said the stress decreased in the house. She had more patience. She was more engaged. I've heard from a lot of people, because I work with couples too, which is really fun, and families, and I'll hear that there's less conflict in the house. They have tools now to have a reconnection at the table with gratitude practice and doing the arrival technique before they eat and having more deep and meaningful connections with each other. Other people feel a healing process in other ways, because we know that all the other work that we're doing in our lives is only supported by more self-compassion and love and caring for ourselves. So whatever anybody else health-wise, I've supported a lot of caregivers for people who are taking care of others that have health challenges, as well as people with health challenges, and they all say they know when they're consistently caring for themselves, and when they stop doing it, they feel such a difference. And it's about feeling more positive, more empowered, more in charge, not so overrun by the illness or the disorder or whatever they have, but that, this is part of them, but it doesn't define them. So I've seen really beautiful results, and people, then sharing their message forward. I work with some acupuncturists and some other people who said, wow, I really feel like I'm going to be able to, be a more effective practitioner because now I'm taking care of myself. Or, wow, I can see myself doing this for a lot longer than I did when I was feeling burned out before I came to you, because now I am refreshed. I have a new perspective. So I see all different sorts of positive impacts. And the greatest ones are, of course, just a deeper sense of love and appreciation for ourselves. And when that happens, that's the foundation that everything can be solidly built on.
And it goes back to what you said earlier. It creates ripples. So you may think that moment sitting in the chair doing that exercise is only for you. The truth is, it's for everyone in your circle and in the outer circle, including the world, because how you show up for yourself ripples out to everything, as you've been sharing throughout this conversation. To me, that it's just so beautiful to even think that whoa, when I take care of me, I'm taking care of my children, my family, and my community.
That's why I created that little tagline for my business. Is nurturing peace and joy in the world from the inside out. It is this whole thing that has to start with us. And I know we know that intellectually, but once we get that emotionally and in our heart space, to know that it is a great gift to ourselves and the world when we prioritize caring for ourselves, the potential in this world is endless. We have a lot of problems in the world, but I believe that they all could be addressed coming from this place of being deeply grounded in love and respect and kindness for ourselves and peace within, and then we can take that out and share it. Our families are stronger, our communities are stronger, and we have really powerful leaders, female leaders, which we need in this world. So the more we do our work, the more impact we can have in the world.
Oh, that's so true. And what you were just speaking about really resonated with me is about living from the inside out, because that's how I've changed my life. And every leader, because I work with a lot of amazing women like you, Kelley, who are leaders in their field, who said, in our personal conversations, that it was when they turned inward is when their life began to transform on every level, business, relationships, family. And I'm like, yes. So I love that that's your tagline, because it's the sacred truth. It's a sacred truth of that's where change is going to start in the world. If we all start with ourselves first, that will ripple out and change the world.
Each time we take care of ourselves, we actually give other people permission to do that. We're role models. We're role models for the women in our lives. We're role models for the men, too. I work with men. It's really interesting how many men have been coming to want to do this work, too, because I think we have a deep need in our culture to come from a place with more love and more compassion. And so the more we do that for ourselves, the more we give permission to others, and we encourage that. If we come from scarcity, it's hard to be really happy for other people about successes. When we come being filled up and really feeling a sense of abundance, wow, it's a celebration that people are having wonderful things happen in their world, because we want that for everyone.
And it's so true. And I love that men are coming to you. It's because they're feeling the call, too. They know things have to shift. And they're trying to tap into that sacred part of them that's in touch with, I call the feminine energy, which is love and compassion and kindness. So to hear that more and more men are coming into this really fills my soul with joy, because I know this is what needs to happen for us to all shift the direction that the world is going. So one of the other things, too, excuse me, is in your work, I know you do virtual, you do workshops, you do corporate. What do you find is the symptom that they first come to you with? Because there must be something they all show up with saying, Kel, this is what I'm feeling, or this is what I'm experiencing. Is this a thread that you see throughout many of them?
There's a couple. Yeah, I I am overwhelmed.
Oh,
I'm just overwhelmed with it all. I hear that a lot. I can't keep going like this. What I shared earlier, I feel stuck. I've heard that a lot. I just feel stuck. I know something has to change, and I don't know how to do it on my own. And then the other piece is how people show up, but they might not identify this. How they show up is shut down. So a lot of times I'll go into organizations and do a whole workshop on mindfulness and self-nurturing and how we can kind of shift things in the culture of the community and or of the organization. And nobody will be interacting at all, completely shut down. And so right then I'll go into the red flags. Gosh, what are your red flags when you're feeling overwhelmed? And a bunch of people will say, oh, we just shut down. And I reflect back to them, I'm literally sitting here in a room noticing that there's a lot of really shut down energy. And when we're shut down, we're not sharing, we're not expressing, we're not connecting, all those things that I think, most people, it's really important to them to do. When we're shut down and just feeling flat and blah, depressed, anxious, however, each person experiences it, we're not engaged in a really meaningful way that we feel in our lives. And, one of the things that we know is that when people die, they aren't bummed about that they haven't, done more per se. They're bummed that they didn't have more meaning. People are yearning for meaning. And, Viktor Frankl has this beautiful quote that I use a lot, and he says, suffering minus meaning equals despair. And that's what I see. I see kind of there's a despair that people come in with, and what I help them do is create more meaning in their lives, connect with themselves, find their individual ways to cultivate peace and joy within themselves and in their lives so that they feel like their life has meaning. And that's really powerful. I feel really, really honored to do that work with people.
And I'm so glad I asked for the symptoms, because for anyone listening to this conversation, tune into everything that Kelley's been sharing. Turn to her and cultivatingpeaceandjoy.com for the resources to support you and turning inward and starting the journey of incorporating self-nurturing into your everyday practice. Kelley, I want to thank you for joining me today and just for sharing your truth and your journey with such love.
Well, you are so welcome. I really have enjoyed it, and I thank you so much for all you do, Linda. You're an inspiration, and I'm really grateful to have an opportunity to share something that I think could be really, really useful and transformative in women's lives.
Oh, and so it is, because I know this is such a big topic. So everyone, I want to thank you for joining me for Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy. Listen in every Tuesday at 2 p.m. for more conversations like this, conversations with visionary women just like Kelley, who are here to share their feminine wisdom to support you in living your best life. And for even more inspiration, claim your free subscription to Aspire magazine, which includes over 40 transformational gifts to support you on that journey. You can subscribe at subscribe-to-aspire.com. And until next time, choose love, choose joy, choose happiness.
Thanks for listening to Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. Join our sacred space every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern and meet leading female visionaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy is a soulful venue where guests share the obstacles they've overcome, along with wisdom and lessons learned on their personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic and soulful living.